There's an update to Questy. There's an update to Questy right now. Switching to creator mode. Oh yeah, we're ready to do RFC. We are definitely ready to do RFC. We are definitely ready to do RFC. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I wonder if that worked. Well, that was nice of you. Is that guy on? No. Oh, fuck. No healers, no tanks. This is just a bad time.
Loktar. May your blades never dull.
Well, time to work on professions. Money. Alright, chat. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make some fucking gold today. So supposedly, according to my guildmates, According to my guildmates, no tanks, no healers. Ugh. According to my guildmates, fishing is the play. To level. Classic. Wow, fishing. God. Unlock retail well, you must have a fishing pole equipped in order to catch fish. In addition, several fishing poles passively increase your fishing skill. Ashen Vale, Stone Talon, Mountains, Wetlands. Deviate Fish, Alchemy and Cooking. School of Deviate Fish are located in oasis areas around barrens and waters inside whaling caverns. Alchemists use Deviate Fish for elixirs of giant growth, and cooking can be prepared savory Deviate Delight. There's Stone Scale L Alchemy. The Barrens and Whaling Caverns. I have 8. I need to sell these bags. Oh, fuck you.
Hail. Be careful.
If this guy says no, then there's no point in me pursuing. I'm trying to find a healer.
Strong heart. Go.
Oh yeah, you know what time it is? Fishing time. The most exciting thing to do in the world of Warcraft. Fish. Nicotine like cigarettes? Question mark?
we're just fishing the pools around here. You will probably run out of pools on this bigger lake every now and then, but there's a smaller lake just to the north a little bit that you can also use. From these pools we get deviate fish. They're reasonably valuable, but we can do much better. You're going to buy the recipe for Savoury Deviant Delight from the auction house. Do not worry, this is a common recipe and costs less than 100 gold on 90% of EU and US servers at the time of recording. You're going to cook everything into Savoury Deviant Delight and sell this on the auction house. These are between 100 and 250 gold each on the vast majority of servers, and the amount of gold you are getting per fish is so much higher than anything in current content. Just farm some, keep them on the auction house. When they do eventually sell,
Holy. $8 gold? That's insane! Raw, brilliant small fish. Oh, why am I here? I need to be I need to be in Mulgore. I need to be down here.
Go to a smoke shop or you can go to a gas station. And the prices range differently. Um, um, the one I usually get is about $12. It's called an air bar. And I usually go to Ignite and Coco. Yeah.
Debating if I should get a swoop back. Not a very tanky boy. I might get the swoop back, man. Yeah, well, I feel you, but you know. I don't think there's any fishing pools in Mulgore, right? Let's fucking raw, long jog, mud snapper. Getting too many of those. There we go. go try to fix the pool pump. Fucking hot in here. Let's fish a mana potion.
This happened in Retail WoW for a reason. It will happen in Classic WoW too. Oh boy.
Faction balance has been a pretty hot topic from day one of Classic. After all, it is one of the first choices you make when you commit to your character, Horde or Alliance. This choice will determine who you can interact with, trade with, communicate with, and play with before you can even log into the game. It's a pretty big deal. And on Classic, your faction matters. Well, it used to. Maybe that's less of the case nowadays. After all, we still do have the old school
on Retail faction does still matter a bit, but not as much, yeah.
PvP and PvE.
Dude, this was like so fun. It's like in Phase 2 PvP was like kind of bad in a lot of ways, but it was really good in some ways too. This was really fun.
The split and being the minority.
I remember I would log on and I would play every single day, and then whenever they added Battlegrounds, I pretty much quit the game.
Faction on a PvP server is simply not an experience that many players would actively seek out. That lone warrior fantasy travelling the lands by themselves runs into problems when you realise so much of the content in the game quite literally requires a group, and you can't even go and pick herbs out in the open world without being ganked. Over time we've seen a shift from somewhat balanced. The early days of Classic.
Oh, this seems balanced to me. Yeah, totally normal, guys.
For the player base on the vast majority of servers actively sorting themselves onto realms where they are the majority. Realms where they are technically PvP tags, but where world PvP no longer happens. The 99%.
That way the classic boomers can still have their ego about playing on a PvP server, but there's nobody on the other faction.
1% of one faction and the 1% of the other servers. And this has been a choice that the players have actively made and that Blizzard has failed to stop. Nothing has really ended up changing with how the servers work. It's been like a copy-paste of what happened with the retail version of the game. Players realised more people are on a different server from themselves and ended up making the swap, be it from real money or a free transfer. Except in Classic, as it tends to be the case, things have happened at a much faster rate. After all, as we started with, your faction is inherently a massive restriction. It's required for such simple things in an online world, and of course players will...
Yeah, I think the faction makes a lot more sense in like classic WoW, but overall, I don't think this would really be a problem if it was just better designed. But the reason why they can't design it any better is because it's classic. So it's like fundamentally the same as it used to be, which just back in the day, there were a lot of problems with the game. It's not like the problem started after Wrath. There were a lot of problems in Wrath.
Trend towards the best, largest environment where interactions can happen.
Yeah,
you might even think the game would do better.
Well, there's no value in having there's nothing that makes being on a dead server better other than like being able to maybe kill rare spawns more often. Like it's pretty much like you trade off like 100 positives for like 100 positives for like 3 positives that don't matter.
Without the restriction of factions, let players choose their allies and their enemies within the game, instead of having such an arbitrary system which determines it for them. But then again, that wouldn't be very classic-like, would it? And whilst the server situation may be a bit too far gone, if we look at the sources we have available, such as Ironforge.pro, about the total numbers of characters across both factions, they are not too far off from one another. About 47% Alliance
That's
to
pretty good.
53% Horde. A bit of a skew towards the Zogs, but nothing too crazy, I would say. If Classic has shown us one thing though, it's that if things don't change, history does tend to repeat itself. There's something which happened on retail World of Warcraft over a very long period of time, something that has started to happen during Wrath of the Lich King, and something that hasn't been fully remedied and embraced as a major expansion feature until Dragonflight.
And what's
what
that?
started off as flavorful racial bonuses has escalated into things such as sharding, war mode, and finally cross-faction play. And the same problem...
I think sharding, war mode, and cross-faction play made the game better. I will tell you that. Now, I think that cross-faction play, maybe not in like classic WoW, I think that it did make the game better. 100%. As somebody who's played retail WoW for the whole time around, sharding is only bad because it is done badly. It is not bad on a fundamental level.
That led to these solutions will happen in Classic. Today I'm going to explain why something so small as a difference in racial bonuses led to Blizzard breaking down the faction barrier nearly 2 decades later. Ulduar in Wrath Classic is the right time to be making this video too, because throughout Classic so far, you've nearly always gone into a raid thinking, I wonder what the bosses will be dropping tonight, not, I wonder if we're going to be progressing any further on this boss tonight. Sure, there have been fights with a degree of challenge throughout Classic so far, but Ulduar will be a step up on another level, since it's the first raid to ever offer an optional difficulty in HUD.
Bro, I can't even see Ulduar and not get mad. I just look at the boss and make me mad. I see his face, I say, oh, you fucking bitch.
Hard mode, which has been specifically tuned up for a greater level of challenge. And whilst I can't say how...
Keep in mind, also the loot has been improved as well.
Trial of the Grand Crusader or Ice Crown Citadel Heroic will measure up, because we don't know if Blizzard's gonna be buffing them or not. This trend of a divide between normal mode and heroic mode only grows the longer World of Warcraft goes on. The first tier of Cataclysm, should we get there, will be hands down harder than anything in Wrath, and it won't even be close. And as
it was insanely fucking hard. Like, Cataclysm took guilds and pugs that were clearing 8 or 7 of 12 heroic ICC 25 men down to 10-man normals, wiping on Magma. Like, Omnitron defense system, wipe fest. It was fucking brutal.
Raiding gets harder, people look towards the top end for guidance, tips and tricks. and to see how they are setting up and building their characters, including, of course, racials. Now I just want to mention here, this isn't supposed to devolve into a what racials are best in Wrath Classic, or a classic good retail bad thing, or a but you guys have this for PvP so it's okay we have better racials in PvE thing. It turns out you give people a faction and they get rather tribal about it. And the thing is, we know for a fact which racials were better and which ones have the largest impact. A recent blue post on a change to Unholy Death Knight summon gargoyle ability in Classic even highlighted a specific example where a racial made a huge difference to the point where this one race combined with this class and spec could beat anyone else in the game every single time.
Well, it's just not fun to play a game whenever one class does way more damage than everybody else and nobody else even has a chance for competing against it. That's the way it was in Classic with warriors and rogues and like mages and warlocks to an extent. I think obviously like towards the end of Nax you had a lot more classes on the meter, but like in Wrath it was just DKs. It was DKs and that's it. Get good, stop whining. You can't get good. If you were good, you'd know that you couldn't do that. It's not good design to have a class that just does more damage than everybody else and nobody else can even get close to it.
You put two people of equal skill, equal gear, who get the same RNG during a fight against one another. Player A is playing a troll, player B is playing, well, it doesn't matter to be honest, because player A wins. Every single time.
That's right.
And player B probably isn't going to feel too good about that either. Berserking has to be one of the most extreme examples of a racial which was left overpowered for so long it's hard to believe. I went and checked and it was only moved down from 20% haste to 15% Warlords of Draenor. This is just one example of a racial that more performance-oriented players may look towards though. Even in Wrath the Lich King right now, how big of a difference are these racials making at the top end? Well, I went through the logs for the top 100 players in raid damage for Phase 1, and have a guess out of the top 100 players, how many Alliance were there? If you said a grand total of 0, you'll be right.
0 out of 100 are all, okay, yeah, big fucking surprise, are all Alliance. Again, and you know what this does is it creates like this trickle down effect where like the hardcore players go Horde because that's the best. And then the semi-hardcore players go Horde because that's where the hardcore players are at and that's where they want to play with. And then the casual, like maybe hardcore a little bit players go over there because that's where the semi-hardcore players are and that's who they want to play with. So it just creates this trickle-down effect of everybody moving over there because they want to have the best opportunity to play with the best players.
Top 100 logs for overall raid damage in Phase 1. 100% Horde. I thought there might have been one or two, so I decided to extend the search a bit. How many Alliance are there in the top 1,000 logs for Phase 1?
Like 2,
1,000
right?
is a big number after all, and yes, there is going to be a few. It's not that bad. But if you said there was, out of 1,000 logs, 56 Alliance, that would be correct. And to be honest, the majority are in 2 guilds, which are setting themselves up for passing success, but that's kind of how passing goes. So overall, if we look at the population for Horde versus Alliance across all realms, you'll remember it's about 53% Horde players to 47% Alliance. Now, if we look at the population for the top 1,000 performers in Phase 1, 95% of them are Horde, 5% are Alliance.
So guess what's going to happen? More and more people are going to go over to Horde. And then at a certain point, whenever people see that everybody's going over to Horde, then everybody goes over to Horde because that's where it's easier to find groups.
But this all doesn't really matter, does it? The top-end Giga Min-Maxi players are always going to do the best thing for their DPS and for their character, and very high-end passing is sketchy anyways. It's just creative loopholes to get around rules to inflate your number on a third-party website. This is just 1%.
It's crazy to me how much people care about parsing, but I used to do the same back in the day.
Doing 1% things, right? Well, sure, it is at the moment. It seems truly unimportant. And many years ago, this was also the situation on retail too. However, much like the servers going from relatively balanced to monofaction, this will have long-term effects, and it does start right at the top with the 1%. It also starts alongside raids getting harder. The top players start making the swap to their best race, not just to pass or to speedrun.
Because that's another thing about Classic WoW, is like in Classic WoW, you could carry a rep paladin. It didn't matter. But like in Wrath, it gets harder. So it becomes more important to bring the better comps. So it's like if they made, like for example, if they made Nax Ramus in 60 Nax, if they made it like twice as hard, like let's say, but like guess what would happen? There would be no rep paladins and no moonkins. Because less people can afford to lose that DPS because of the efficiency.
But to get the first clears in gear which can barely scrape by the DPS requirements. And in Classic we've had plenty of knowledge in advance of the faction to play to push performance more and more. And Warcraft logs that we just looked at, that really...
Bro, if they're popping hero to kill the heart, they're not killing this boss.
Supports it as well. Raiding is also incredibly popular in Classic. Over the past 2 weeks there were over 20 million individual passes logged worldwide. I think retail raiding picked up in popularity considerably over time too, but it isn't as big as it once was.
And it never will be. Retail raiding is dying because raids are harder to do, they're more annoying, they waste more of your time, and they give you oftentimes worse gear for comparative difficult content.
A lot more difficulties in
Mythic
retail,
plus
so
skilled
it's kind
raiding.
of hard to see everything in one place. But as more people get invested into raiding and to look to the top end players for help, more and more people see the fact that if I really want to improve, I should be playing a certain faction.
Exactly.
It
This
leads
is
to
what
a
happened in
mental
retail.
reinforcement that if I want to be good and play with good players, I should be on the Horde. This is the point where it starts to not just be the 1% anymore. It's trickling down to players who are going to take 1 month to clear the latest raid, but see and think they need to be playing a certain faction to do so. Eventually, Mythic raiding releases, raids start getting even harder. We also have Mythic Plus, another feature that's only available to players on your own faction. By this point, there's been years of Horde dominance in the PvE scene. Do you want to guess when the last World First was won by an Alliance guild in WoW? It was Madness of Deathwing in Kata, and I'm just saying...
Nah, that can't be true. Nah, bro, there's no way. There's no way that's...
A feature that's only available to players on your own faction. By this point, there's been years of Horde dominance in the PvE scene. Do you want to guess when the last World First was won by an Alliance guild in WoW? It was Madness of Deathwing in Kata, and I'm just saying...
Nah, that can't be true. Nah, bro, there's no way. There's no way that's... Nah, bro, like, there's no way.
The world's best guild at the time, Paragon, who were Horde by the way, got a ban for this tier. That probably helped out the situation quite a bit, but after so many years of the thought that you should be Horde to compete and to be able to clear, it eventually came true. Enough of the player base that did want to push performance, that wanted to try high keys, that wanted to find a guild to move to Mythic, and to Horde. Alliance guilds made shifts towards playing on Horde servers, and saw their pool of applicants go up 10 times overnight.
It was this one time I did a group and I was like, okay, who wants to come and join my group for Mythic Castle Nathria? I had like 5 people apply. And then I said, okay, let's just test this out. Let's see who's gonna join my group for Mythic Castle Nathria on Horde. And I made a group. like 37 applicants instantaneously, 38, 50, 80, 120, you know, we're capping out like 153. It's like, okay, now it's going all the way up to 160. Bro, like everybody's there, people are ready, they're linking like realm first achievements, they've got best in slot gear. You go back to Alliance and this guy's like, oh, well, I don't have the item level, but me and my friend, we thought we could maybe just go over and join. Oh, it's for Castle Nathria? Oh, fuck. I thought it was for... I thought it was for Siege of Orgrimmar. Never mind. We're trying to get the shoulders from the last boss. Oh, bro. Like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. And that was it. Alliance was awful.
Invested in Mythic Plus, made the swap, and found the group finder full all day, every day. This was not the experience they could have had on the Alliance. And finally, from starting with the 1%, moving down to semi-hardcore, this eventually hits the casual players, and this is where it really becomes a problem. My friends have moved to the Horde. I can't play the race I want to in a fantasy world due to faction restrictions. I was a casual player in a guild, and now they've left the server. They're all gone. Would you say this won't happen again on Classic? Or the ball to get this whole situation rolling hasn't already set in motion? You know, the faction change feature in the cash shop came out in original Wrath, and Blizzard have mentioned plans to bring it back for Wrath Classic. It's just not in yet. There's going to be plenty of very...
I think that it would be a mistake to add faction change, because if they add it in, then everybody is just going to swap to Horde. That's really the truth. Yeah, it's already in? Oh. Uh-oh.
Swift re-rollers, I am betting. So can we stop this whole situation from happening again? Well, I mean, not having faction transfers helps a lot, if I'm honest. At least people who have invested so much into their character aren't going to want to make the swap, even if it meant they would be...
But, like, that's not a good thing. Like, the problem is, like, the way to solve this problem is not to just not do it either. Because I think it's really shitty that people that are playing the game should have to, they should have to just, like, play on an inferior faction. Like, they should just let you do what you do in retail. Just group cross-faction in instances. I mean, that's what I think they should let you do.
Or they could fix the racials.
Perhaps this feature shouldn't come back to the game after all. Do we remove racials? I mean, it would certainly work in the most boring way possible. And let's be honest, if racials were ever going to be removed, it would have been experimented with at some point by now in Arena, and it hasn't. I don't think this is even worth considering. Well, just to balance the racials then, duh. If only it was that easy. It can't happen ever, unless they're all the same. Racials are a choice, and when you have a choice, there will be better and worse.
Well, that's not entirely true. Like in retail WoW, there's a lot of diversity with what classes and what races people play. There actually is. If you go and you look at the class makeup and the race makeup in these different classes, in these different fights, you will see a lot of different types of players, right? Like not in PvP. Well, okay, all right. Let's look right now. Arena 3v3 ladder. Let's look at the top 10 warriors. Okay, and we're gonna look at solo shuffle. Let's look at 3v3 top 10 warriors. Okay, one. Let's see. Jesus, this is not looking good for us. Okay. Wow, this is really. Oh my god. I'm gonna just do all the warriors from the first and the second one. Okay. So there we go. And where are they? Oh, there's two. Okay, good. All right, so we've got dwarf, night elf, or is that, yeah, night elf, iron dwarf, orc, blood elf, orc, gnome, dark iron dwarf, human. There you go. So look at that. That's pretty fucking good. So yes, that's actually true. Like, I'm not lying.
That's choice for you. So should we just throw the floodgates open and have cross-faction play? If you remember, Classic has cross-faction battlegrounds and has had them since as early as TBC. That certainly did not happen back in the day. If PvPers can have it, what about the rest of us? Or do we just not need to think about this yet? Cross-server play was a thing long before cross-faction came in retail, and for Classic, it doesn't look like we're getting cross-server for PvE anytime soon, if ever. We still don't even have the looking for...
Yeah, I think they should make cross-server for PvE content in Wrath. I think that playing on a dead server is a bad experience, and I don't really care about like immersion whenever the alternative for that is ruining another person's experience. As somebody who plays on a dead server, my experience in the game is vastly diminished and made like much worse because of the server that I play on. Straight up, just for that.
Dungeon system in Wrath Classic. On top of that, the bigger servers in Classic are locked. Unless you already play there, you cannot move a new character there or make a new character.
Yeah.
This has been the case for some time. One of the big things that kept the trend moving towards re-rolling Horde was that everyone knew the big servers, and since on retail they can split the population up via sharding, there weren't restrictions on the transfers as there have been in Classic. These two differences between the retail and the Classic versions of the game might be bigger than we think. Overall, looking at the situation, for me, I've seen what happened in the past and how top-end players are already heavily trending towards Horde in Classic. I can't help but think what's happened in retail will repeat itself
And see, I'll show you guys what the problem with parsing is, okay? Watch what Willy does here.
towards Horde in Classic. I can't help but...
Right here, if Willy got Frost Nova'd here, he would have Nova'd the tank and also these guys.
think what's happened.
And then he moved right here. If he had got targeted, it would have Frost Nova'd all of these people. But it doesn't matter because he's parsing. He's trying to parse. He's trying to do as much damage as possible.
In retail will repeat itself in Classic, and as per usual,
Yeah.
at a considerably faster rate. Perhaps how the servers are in Classic with locks and no faction transfers is doing more work than we give it credit for, and this all won't be a problem until the casuals start to feel the effect. By which time, of course...
Yeah, and the casuals started feeling the effect of this, like, back in, like, I don't know, like, I'm trying to think about, like, what expansion this was. But it was some point in... like, I would say, like, BFA, and then into Shadowlands. It was getting really bad.
It's far too late. But those are just my thoughts on the game after having played it for, you know, a little while. You reckon this will be an issue in Classic at all, where everyone feels forced to go Horde eventually? And is there a solution to this which you think could realistically work? That's all for today though. As always, thank you all so much for watching and for listening in. And I'll see you all in the next one very soon.
There it is. Personally, I think that they should just make it to where you can play cross-faction and cross-server. There's no value in having servers. They improve nothing for the player. They are a technological limitation, and they make the game worse for anybody who's not in a beneficial server. There's no reason for it to exist. There's no reason for it to exist other than tech. That's it. Yeah, there's the video. I'm tired, there's no changes mentality. I'm all in. Yeah, they need at some point to actually make the game better.
So, apparently we're on UFO number 3. There's probably a lot more UFOs, and everybody wants to believe it's aliens. I certainly would love to believe it's aliens. And I guess the news that we're getting is, the U.S. doesn't know what kind of propulsion system these objects are using. It's unknown. And they're interfering with our sensors, and they're flying at altitudes which interfere with U.S. civilian commercial flights. So, act of war? Maybe. Spying? Perhaps. Aliens? I wish, but probably unlikely. And I don't really wish, because aliens coming here would probably mean something very, very devastating. I think it was Stephen Hawking who talked about, like, we definitely don't want aliens to know that we're here. Because our understanding of life is that every time a more advanced culture, civilization, or society approaches an under-advanced one, a less technologically advanced society, the more advanced one crushes the less advanced one or absorbs it and assimilates it. And it's an interesting concept. That is to say, the belief is there is a high probability that if aliens do come, we will be assimilated into their way of life, our culture will be destroyed, and hey, maybe that's what's happening right now. So, not necessarily a good thing, but I gotta point out, at least philosophically, yeah, I don't know that any sufficiently advanced species that could travel far and fast enough to come to our planet would have the same kind of values that we do. In fact, the idea that aliens would even look like humanoid beings that could exist in our atmosphere is probably not correct. For all we know, intelligent life could be gigantic, gaseous, gooey balloons with no eyes or ears, but they can detect, I don't know, various wavelengths of the electromagnetic spectrum, and then they float around and do whatever. Who knows? But I'd imagine anything that was able to build systems and manipulate their environments may actually be humanoid. Okay. All right, I'm getting into the alien stuff way too early. But I do have an argument for you as to why, if aliens do come to Earth, they may actually have some kind of hands. They may actually be bipedal. And I'll break that down for you because I've been thinking about this. But first, let's talk about the news. We got this story from Outlook India. Explained, U.S. fighter shoots down third UFO in 3 days. Military does not rule out aliens. What does it mean? Okay, that's just so silly. You can't rule out aliens. Come on. No, but we can say please. Disclose.tv with probably the best tweet of last night. Yes, I know the Super Bowl happened, but this one's way better. Pentagon does not know to what keeps these objects aloft. Unknown propulsion systems. We're calling them objects, not balloons, for a reason, says U.S. Air Force General Glenn Van Herk. More. Van Herk says that he hasn't ruled anything out yet when asked whether he rules out aliens. What? I mean, I guess technically you can't. Unnamed U.S. defense official now tells Reuters there is no indication of aliens or extraterrestrial activity in recent takedowns of aerial objects. But why would there be? You know, that's why it's a silly question. It's like, could it have been interdimensional space demons? And it's like, okay, well, I mean, probably not, because I don't think those things exist. They might, but how am I supposed to prove a negative? Come on. I think it would be fun and funny if we could, but here's the actual news. Check this out. The U.S. has shot down 3 suspicious flying objects in 3 days. Here's what we know about the UAP floating over North America. UAP. You know, get this UAP out. UFO. You know, they say UAP is unexplained aerial phenomena. Phenomena? That could be like a cloud. Like ball lightning or something. No, an unidentified flying object, okay? I see UFOs all the time. Because I can't identify what those lights are. Probably just a plane. But still, it's a UFO to me. No, but in all seriousness, if there is an unidentified flying object, call it that. UAP is dumb. It makes sense to call something a UAP, an unidentified aerial phenomena, if you're seeing a weird light zigzagging around. Because then you're like, well, that's a phenomenon we don't know. It's not an object. We can't tell. It's a ball of light, you know. But if it's an unidentified flying object, call it a UFO. It doesn't mean... But I guess people think UFO and they think aliens or whatever. Business Insider. A week after shooting down a suspected Chinese spy balloon that floated over the country, F-22 jets shot down an unidentified object, threatening flights over Alaska on Friday. Reports offer conflicting details about the object's capabilities and origin. And U.S. intelligence officials have released limited information about its design or intended purpose. Recently, unidentified anomalous phenomena, is that what it is? Anomalous phenomena? I thought it was aerial. I think they're wrong. Have been observed not just over the United States, but floating above Canada, Colombia, and Costa Rica. In addition to the first surveillance balloon seen over the country beginning January 31st, a second balloon was spotted over Latin America February 4th. And 2 unidentified objects were shot down over Alaska and Canada on Friday and Saturday. An additional object was shot down on Sunday over Lake Huron in Michigan, near the U.S.-Canadian border, prompting a brief closure of the airspace around Michigan to support Department of Defense activities. Airspace over Montana was also briefly restricted on Saturday after reports of radar anomalies in the region, the North American Aerospace Defense Command said in a statement posted to Twitter. But after an investigation, no additional object was found. A Sunday statement from the Pentagon suggested that the radar anomalies detected in Montana on Saturday were related to the object shot down less than 24 hours later in Michigan. Based on its flight path and data, we can reasonably connect this object to the radar signal picked up over Montana, which flew in proximity to sensitive DoD sites. Yikes. According to the Pentagon, China has a global operation of surveillance balloons collecting data on military bases, including the balloon downed last week. But the object shot down Friday has not been confirmed to be linked to Chinese officials or anyone else. Here is what we know about the objects shot down over the weekend.
Oh my god.
3 UAP were at an altitude that conflicted with civilian flights. Quote, I can confirm the Department of Defense was tracking a high-altitude object over Alaska airspace in the last 24 hours. White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby told reporters at a Friday briefing. The object was flying at an altitude excuse me, of 40,000 feet and posed a reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flight. The balloon seen floating above the country last week hovered at around 60,000 feet, according to the Pentagon, which is well out of the general cruising altitude of commercial aircraft, which normally operate between 33,000 and 42,000 feet. The Wall Street Journal reported the object shot down on Sunday.
What the fuck, man? People are just so randomly nice. All right, let's go.
How? We shall meet again.
Requires level 15. I wonder if these sell in the auction house. And have any value.
Greetings, traveler. May the eternal sun shine upon thee. Well met. Goodbye. How may I aid you? Go in peace.
I gotta take a shit. I gotta take a shower.
Our ancestors be praised. Greetings, traveler. May the eternal